Hello and welcome to the International Why Can't We Be Friends Society. I will be presenting today about why we can or cannot be friends. I'm taking the position of cannot. So to start off the speech, throughout the generations, the Jews and Muslims have always been nations that are intertwined. They both occupy the same regions of the world, and they share very similar religious backgrounds. But the question that always comes about is, can they ever get along? They're very similar, but can they ever in history get along? Some would suggest that there's a very big possibility they could get along, but many others say it's not able to. The reason that they would never be able to get along in the future of history was because the Jews and Muslim, the Islamic views prevent this, as well as an illogical hate for Jews throughout history, and Muslim leaders today are way too stubborn to try for peace. So the religion of Islam, some background, started in the city of Medina, but spread rapidly through the Arabian Peninsula and Europe. And it started in the year 635 when Muslims conquered Palestine. This started the spread of Islam, and continued with some other conquerings in 711 of Spain, and 634 to 644. In 634 to 644, one of the most famous leaders, Omar, was governing, and he made a famous Pact of Omar called Pact of Omar, which is basically a list of rules for second-class citizens, or the Dhimmi, which were the Jews and Christians. They were second-class because they believed in one God, like the Muslims did, but in the third class were the pagans, who believed in more than one God, so they were even the lowest. So the religion of Islam is based off of 5 pillars. These pillars each represent a different deed or act that every Muslim needs to do. These include going to Mecca at least once, prayer 5 times a day, giving charity, fasting during Ramadan, and professing one's faith. The other main concepts come from the scriptures called the Quran and the Hadith. These books contain the words of God and Muhammad's interaction with him. To this point, many Muslims must be peace-loving and just follow the books. But there are verses in the Quran that are very straightforward about hating the Jews. In fact, in verse 741, it reads, "They shall have a bed of hellfire. This is the way we reward the unjust." This is clearly referring to the Jews and talking about how they should have a bed of hellfire, which clearly is some sort of a harm. And so the main culture brings forth this hate of Jews, and this is one reason why they'll never be able to get along in the future. The second reason they'll never be able to get along is from illogical hate throughout the history. So when Islam was beginning in the Arabian Peninsula, the relations between them were quite tense, but not too bad, and it led near the golden Jewish age of Spain, where the Jews were very involved in society and were let to do mainly anything they wanted. They were very involved in every aspect and contributed many things. But Jews today and Muslims are at a standstill, and Muslims just attack Jews for very logical reasons. The New York Times quotes Mr. Amos, who was part of the Har Nof attack last month, said that, referring to the man that attacked them, that he began to carry out a massacre screaming, "God is great." So this Muslim was attacking Jews solely for the reason of God is great. That's very illogical, and there's no reason for them to be hating us. There's been about 30,595 terror attacks against Jews in Israel since 2000 to 2007. That's only 7 years. There's been about 30,500. And so from this, all this illogical hate against Jews, it's very difficult to foresee a future of cooperation between the two cultures. And the third reason I'm presenting is relations today. The Arab nations will not try for peace whatsoever. We offered back, we offered back in the day to go back to pre-1967 borders and give them basically half of Israel, and they can have their own Palestine state. But they said no. They want all or nothing, and even at that, they will not stop till they have killed all the Jews. And now, from this, they resort to violence and are attempting to annihilate Jewish people without settling for any compromise whatsoever. Until these matters are resolved and the Muslim leaders today somehow develop reasonable feelings, the Jewish people and the nation of Islam will never be able to get along, because this just will keep on happening for generations and there'll be no end to this. So from these 3 examples and instances of Muslim and Jewish interaction, it's very likely to conclude that they will never get along. From the leaders of the nation today not wanting to negotiate, to the illogical hatred throughout the history, and these nations will be fighting. Even the scriptures of Islam promote this, and it will never lead to a peace between the two vast and complex cultures. Thank you. I hope you learned a lot from this.